What is going on, everybody? Welcome. We are here, week 3. See you Sunday. Got a full panel on there today. Was almost a panel of 2-0s, and then Prez had to jump on and lower the batting average. So we got my guy Jeff, who's
A lot of
Dolphins are
football
sitting
left.
at 2-0. We got Mo down the corner of me. His Cowboys are 2-0. Has played weak teams, but they're still 2-0 at the end of the day. My team has also played weak teams, but we too are a weak team, and we're 2-0. And the Giants have played weak teams and lost to 2 of them.
They played the game. They played football.
They definitely
you got to
played
give them
football.
credit for that, right? They played the game.
Like he says, there's a lot of football left.
A lot of
Played
football.
4
left.
quarters.
We're not doing
They played
NFC
4
East
quarters
weekly.
of
I'm not
football.
here for that.
It could have been
Anyway.
worse. Listen, Loki, not to get. It could have been worse.
It could have. I thought it was going.
It could have been worse. It was 19. Like what was it? Like 19-12 in the fourth quarter, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So like it was.
It wasn't terrible. So
Too bad.
we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna start off with the weekly official off the ball network rankings, power rankings.
I did mine this week too. Proud.
You did do yours. I was very proud of you. So if you see on the left, we have the actual rankings themselves, and then to the right, we have all of our individual rankings and how we get to the screen on the left. So Cowboys overtook the Niners this year, or this week rather, as the number 1 team. You see myself and Chris both had them at number 1. Pretty much everybody but Mo. Mo's the hater of the group.
Mo doesn't even believe in his own team. Sad.
I'm not hating. That's not hating. I had them. That's not like, hey, they're the 3rd best team in football. It's not hating.
And this was pre Trayvon Diggs too. So
Yeah, it was. That definitely
take
probably
that with what you will. But no, I think so. Jeff, you're the one that doesn't have any skin in the game. You don't give me your rankings. What do you think? What's your initial thoughts when you saw these rankings?
I told you guys before, I think you guys kind of nailed it when I look at them. Yeah, of course you can argue between the Cowboys and 49ers. It's week 2. We're in, we've played 2 games. Of course there's going to be an argument. Dolphins have played the best schedule of, the undefeateds, but what does that mean? We don't know. Again, it's week 3. I could see why somebody would say the Chiefs are high after their week 1 performance, but it's the Chiefs. We know what we got. I like where the Ravens are at 6. I thought they were my most impressive team last week based on what I thought coming in. The Bills are probably too high right now. I think there's chinks in the armor. But then again, if you start dropping them below Atlanta, Jaguars, Saints, now you start getting into trouble. So I totally get it. As someone who did this for a few years, believe me, I get it. Definitely got Washington too low. I'm not quite sure. So people, I guess maybe we're not valuing wins as much as we're, we probably could. I see what you're like. I look at this and I could see like, I feel Washington's like, definitely top 16 team. I talked about the other day, but 12's fine. I mean, if you're, Commanders fan, that's fine. I see why the Browns are that high. I guess it's based on how good you think Cincinnati is. But if we're going to have Cincinnati at 20 and the Browns at 15, I think the Browns are probably too high. I'd say the Jets are too high just based on the fact that we know how the season's going to go, but that's not fair either. So overall, you guys did a really good job. I like the way you're doing it. I think this is the best way to do rankings, and I'm here for it. It's probably the most open to discussion, and also the most thorough rankings that anybody does besides, a lot of people out there just throwing things up against the wall. They put the Chiefs at number 1 to get people arguing and talking or whatever. So I commend you guys, for what you're doing over there. And I think they turned out pretty good and they look great, by the way.
Thank you. So we had said in the group chat, I got beef with Jelani this week. Jelani put them at 22, Aaron at 19. Aaron's just a hater. I'll give him that. I expect that from a Cowboys fan. Jelani had them 22 because we beat the Cardinals, who a lot of people think are going to be the worst team in the league. And then we beat Broncos. We're down by 18 at one point, came back and won 1-2 on a Hail Mary. But I don't understand how you can have a 2-0 team sitting at 22.
I can't do. I couldn't do that. It was hard for me to put like I don't think the Commanders are still that great, but they're 2-0, and it's hard for me to have a 0-2 team ahead of any 2-0 team. So
Bro, I
I
wasn't-
have them
Which he
relatively
doesn't.
high, but I base in my rankings off of how teams have looked so far. Like I don't care about what happened last year or whatever. Like they're 2-0. So regardless of how we feel, they're a 2-0 football team, and I can't have the Bengals ahead of them because I think the Bengals are a better football team, you know. So and the Bengals have not looked like a team that could be a Super Bowl contender so far. So I base mine strictly off how teams have looked during the first 2 weeks, of the season. So the Commanders are playing like a top 12 football team right now, and regardless of the quarterback situation and all that, like they're top 12 right now. 2 weeks in, yeah, they're top 12.
After you guys are done talking about the good teams, I want to talk about the bad teams a little bit because that's my favorite part of the power rankings.
Mo, what are your thoughts when you see everybody's initial all of our individual rankings? What stands out to you?
Well, obviously, of course, like what stood out to everybody else is that I stand pat on the Dolphins being number one. I had them number one after week 1, kept them number one after week 2, because if I got you number one and you turn around and win, you didn't do anything to lose the spot. I don't care who looks more impressive. I'm just saying, just defending the Dolphins the way they look right now, biggest threat to Kansas City. Really look better than Kansas City right now, but we all know at the end of the day, it's 15 and Andy Reid over there. We expect them to be in the AFC Championship. I think having the Commanders, I mean, I don't want to focus on that, but that is like, all right, bro, they're 2-0. At the end of the day, just the simple fact of some people, the way they rank, and it's not because it panned out right, but I'm more of I don't want projections of what we think teams will be. Like when you're going into week 3, don't rank somebody what you think they'll be by week 6 or week 7. Like, honestly, when I made my week 2 rankings, week 1 was out the window. Like, okay, what'd you look like it's a week by week basis for me. That's how I go about it. So having a 2-0 team anywhere past 15 is really crazy. And looking at these power rankings, I'm really surprised that the Saints are 10. That's who I'm surprised. I think they're a little high. Only because when I look at, okay, they should be ahead of the Lions. I think out of them, the Commanders and the Bucks, I think they've looked probably the worst in their 2 wins. I think the Commanders looked a lot better coming back against Denver, and I think the Bucks, they've won both games. I know they beat the Vikings, so okay, they're 0-2, so it doesn't look as good. But the Bucks were underdog in 1 week. Baker Mayfield looks impressive. Mike Evans looks obviously impressive. So it's kind of like I don't see why the Saints are so much higher. It's not they're so much higher. I just don't think the Saints are they're probably the worst 2-0 team in football right now, just based on wins. That does stand out to me there. And then I'm not high on the Browns either. Like I don't think the Browns are good.
So Jeff, I want your opinion on these 2 teams right here.
That's exactly where I'm going.
That's where Jeff. Why? That's why Jeff wanted to come on. He wanted to talk about the Bears and the Cardinals.
No, I didn't see this until 2. I got on the broadcast. I had no idea. I missed it this week. I'm loving it.
So give us your thoughts on those 2 teams.
First of all, I got a question. So column let me see, column C there. Rob, is that you, Rob? You go by Rob on this?
It
or
is.
Cruz?
That is me.
The Bears at 21.
I'll tell you right now, that was a typo. Because I have
So
yeah, you typoed mine too, because I have the Bears like actually 32.
No.
The Bears are the worst team in football.
They're
not just the worst team, they're the worst franchise and the worst position in football. Like, so okay.
And they've had the worst week in football you can
They're just they're awful.
Their defensive coordinator, like and
on top of that, they got 100,000 worth of stuff stolen from their
really?
Okay, I'm gonna bring up a few things about it. I got a lot of thoughts on the bottom of this. First of all, Bears are the worst. Cardinals are not the worst, but we know they're going to be the worst because they don't want to win. Josh Dobbs is better than probably 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. The Panthers are awful. Bryce Young is
bad. And he's out.
The year is shot. He's already out. The Panthers, they don't make any sense out there. They're one of the most boring teams in football. They have no playmakers. You're not going to win.
What if they get the number 1 pick?
They're not taking a quarterback if that's what you're.
What if they get the number 1 pick?
They're not taking a quarterback.
You know what? This would be the first year you'd think about it. So we'll table that. I don't know.
Will you not think about it?
No, they trade.
I think they will. You know why they'll think about it? Because the Chicago Bears made that mistake last year. They shouldn't say they made a mistake, but they had that choice, and they're now like, which would have worked out because what are you going to do with?
I'm just
anyway.
saying that's
I
low
think
key
you have
an
to think about it.
intriguing situation.
Yes,
If the
you know what?
Panthers are bad,
Chris, you're right. Real quick, because that's when they draft these quarterbacks, and everybody thinks you can't let go of them. No, it's not until year 4 when you can't get rid of these guys. They're just an expensive rookie years 1 through 3. Like everything Fields did this week to tie into that is him going, I ain't playing for Chicago next year. Fields is going to have a job. He's going to get a chance. He's going to look better. I'm not saying he might go to the Super Bowl, but he's going to be fine. But he also knows like he's out. Like he's out in Chicago. They're not signing him. They're not giving him the extension. It's over. So he's just that's how it's going to be. And I totally agree with Chris. Like if you see a year, and then we'll say this keeps happening with Young, you definitely got to have the question. So I think the Panthers are 31, and then you can start into mismatching. You know, the Patriots aren't the 27th best team, and they're better than the Colts. They're better than the Raiders. I don't know about the Vikings. Yeah, I guess they're down there low, so that's fine. But that's the only one was that Bears thing. But it sounds like there might have been a bit of confusion. So I'm going to let it slide till next week. But they need to be 32 next week. Maybe I'm just saying. What's up, Jelani?
What's going on, Jeff? What's going on, fellas?
Just about to segue into that. Jelani joined us a little bit late. I know you said you're at work. Glad you can join us though. So just real quick before we move on, what were your initial thoughts of these rankings when you saw them?
I mean, kind of. I mean, Mo put it in the chat before, like I could say it, but he's like, I'm a value the 2-0 teams, and obviously, penalize the 0-2 teams. The one thing, obviously, that I did with the Commanders, like for me, I guess I kind of take a mixture approach. I think I heard Prez say it right before I came on. Like, I kind of value, like, it's kind of almost like, I guess, college football. Like, I value, like, the strength of win a little bit, but also look ahead, too, to see, like, what their schedule is going to look like and how they're going to, like, fare the next few weeks. I guess I don't do it all the time, like, on a week-by-week basis. But like I did say in the chat, I did want to say my Falcons were too high. The Commanders, I accidentally put too low because how I did it, I copied and pasted them, and I was just, like, moving them around. And I was like, dang, it's a team I'm forgetting about. And literally the Commanders was I think was the second to last one. But if I was to redo it, I think I wouldn't have them at 22. I said that was a mistake. I would have them a little bit higher, but I do have to value like a little, like I have to take into consideration a little bit about the strength of win, like, because they could very well be sitting at 0-2. They're obviously not, a win is a win, to quote Prez. Of course that, that goes in his favor, but, overall, like I said, like Jeff said too, I think I like the way we're doing this. Taking everybody's opinion into consideration. Obviously averaging them out and then kind of seeing where everybody falls. And like I told you, Rob, if my Falcons lose, I'm gonna be the first one to put them at 30 against a depleted Detroit team. But like you said, I kind of mix all of it in, like kind of take it week by week, but also take in consideration like the strength of the win and like kind of like how they looked and what I feel like they're going to look next week. Like if they keep escaping with wins like that, like, yeah, of course they're going to keep climbing the power rankings just because, they're winning games. But, also got to kind of take into effect, like, how they're doing it. But again, a win is a win. So
I think this week is a huge litmus test for us. I've got Buffalo coming into town. But Stu, your boy Jeff your boy Stu has a message for you.
Hey,
he is
so far so good. I admit it. I think he's done a great job.
Let's slow down, though.
I just want to be on the record. And Stu, every year I've done a show with Stu, I've said this: Baker Mayfield is good enough to be a bad starting quarterback.
Yeah,
I still feel that way. I don't think he should be out of the league. He can be a bad starting quarterback.
He's good enough, and I said coming into the season, he's good enough that we shouldn't just bat our eye at the Bucs at possibly winning the NFC South because they have a good roster.
Absolutely.
He's good enough that if Baker's my starting quarterback, my season's not over. You weren't tanking for Caleb Williams by signing Baker Mayfield. That's not what you were doing.
Right.
If you wanted to tank for Caleb, you traded Mike Evans, you got Kyle Trask at quarterback, and you're like, you know what? We're going on the tank tour. We got a young defense. We'll build off of that and get our quarterback of the future. You don't sign Baker if you're tanking. I don't believe any team signs Baker and tells me in the process of signing Baker, you're tanking. Like, he's at that spot. Like, that's where he is. But he is playing good, but he's not on a screw you tour. Baker will be Baker.
Baker, and here's credit to Baker. Like we're not going to do an hour on Baker, but just real quick, he lives on the screw you tour. I admire that about him. I've never questioned how much he wants to do all this stuff. It's literally just skill level. That's the only thing I've ever questioned about Baker. Is he's size and skill level. I'm going to say the same thing about Bryce Young until the day he retires. Like it is what it is. At that point. But as far as like, how much he wants to put it to everybody, the guy's got all the gumption. Seems like he's even doing the work. I mean, if you can go to two different teams, in a matter of 365 days and look, like you belong, like you're doing the work. You know what I mean? I think we perceive Baker as, kind of a goof. I think the problem with Baker is that we still have that imprint of Johnny Manziel in her head. And these two are not linked in any way, shape, or form, except for they're just like scrappy little white dudes. But I really think that hurts Baker, because I think we all in our head, it just like, not our head, you know what I mean? But like collectively, like people are like, this dude's screwing around. He's all talk. He's out part. I don't think Baker's doing that. I think Baker goes home every night and like probably has dinner with his wife and they talk about what the next plan is. And then he looks at some tape. Like, I think the guy's putting in the work, as opposed to like just in our mind, because of his perception on the field, we think he's screwing off. I really don't think he is. But, that being said, he's a slightly below good starting quarterback in the NFL right now. Good for him, man. I hope he should try to tell Jeff to shut up. All right, here we go.
Anyway,
Stop it, Stu. Stu, stop it. We'll do it next summer, buddy. Hey, Stu, next summer, buddy. Next summer. Hold up.
So, Jelani, what is your outside of the Falcons game? Because obviously that's going to be a game to watch for you. Which one of these matchups this week has your eye?
I guess not for any particular reason. Like, I guess for me, right at this point in time, since there's two other 2-0 teams in my division, I'm kind of keeping my eye out on our division. I want to see obviously the Eagles-Bucks game and how that kind of fares out. Obviously, we just talked about Baker. Baker's going to be Baker. I'm hoping this week is the week he becomes Baker, and they kind of take a tumble because they look pretty good. They look competent. Obviously, we talked about like their defense didn't lose too many pieces. They look pretty good offensively. Baker's been competent enough to get his playmakers the ball, and they've been able to win games. But I think it's a big litmus test for them this week. If they're able to look good or even win the game, we might be talking about the Bucks possibly being the team to beat in the NFC South. So I'm kind of keeping my eye on that, like I said, just because, obviously for personal reasons. But I think it could possibly turn out to be a pretty good game as well. Like, the Eagles haven't looked like world beaters this year either. Like, they've got out to hot starts and then let teams creep back and, have almost lost games, with the Patriots. And obviously, probably they played week 1, but both games they didn't look that great. And I've kind of been saying, like, this year I feel like they're not gonna have like that same Super Bowl type run ish like they had last year. Like, they're gonna have some games where they're gonna be in dog fights and they can go one way or the other. And this possibly could be one of those games this week. So that's the game I got my eye on.
Yeah, I like that out, Jelani. The Eagles are on watch at this point. Like, they definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Prez, what's your game to watch this week? Which one you sitting down? Now that your Giants have already played, they played 2 nights ago. Which game are you sitting down and watching?
We played ish. We were there.
You guys,
I don't know if we played.
Really. You guys had 11 players on the field at a time.
Put the jersey on.
Anyways,
It's bad. The game I'm watching, you know what? There's a couple that are intriguing, but I'm gonna go with the battle of the 0-2 teams, Chargers, Vikings, because one of these teams is going to be 0-3, and it's going to be kind of crazy that one of these teams who have playoff aspirations and maybe division champion aspirations are going to be 0-3, and if you're 0-3, it might be a wrap. So this is going to be an intriguing matchup. Herbert, Cousins, and all that, and I'm looking forward to seeing which coach doesn't mess it up most, because it feels like both head coaches just find ways to lose games, and with Minnesota last year, right? They had like a crazy record, like one possession game. I feel like every game was a one possession game, and like even when they played when we played them last year, They beat us on like a crazy, I think it was a field goal, last second field goal. So like, and we know how that works, right? And if you're a team that keeps winning close, it's usually a lot of it is luck, right? Sometimes you just get lucky and all that. And this year, it's just not going their way so far. So it's going to be is interesting to see how, both teams come out and play. But it's both coaches kind of suspect with their late game stuff and all that, especially the Chargers. Like, he might not last. Staley might not last. That long. So going to be interesting to see. So I'm looking forward to seeing this because we're going to see an 0-3. One of these teams is going to be 0-3, and we're going to be very shocked because I don't think any of us saw that happening.
I like that pick. It was on my list. This could be it for Staley. Me and if you go back, listen to me and Ken talk about earlier this week, this could be it. They're not going to have any patience.
Especially with Kellen Moore just lying in the like they didn't bring him in just to bring him in, just to be.
And also, what I like about this pick, Perez, is that this is also going to be just take everything out of it and just watch it. It's also two good teams, or two talented.
That's what I'm saying.
Teams.
It's going to be a good game.
So it's going to be fun to watch. It's one of the best 0-2 matchups you're ever going to see.
They're not a typical 0-2 team to 0-2 team matchup. This is like these teams probably should be 1-1 at least, at worst. One of them should be Chargers. Maybe should be 2-0, but one of these teams is going to be 0-3. So it's going to be a lot of pressure on these teams.
0-3 teams since 2002. I think this was the first year that the Texans were a franchise. The NFL moved to 8 divisions in each conference. Only one team, 99 teams have started 0-3. One has made the playoffs, and that was the 2018 Texans.
Yeah, you only had a 9% chance of making it starting 0-2. So I would.
0-2 is tough. So they're already down.
I'm glad Rob said that because I did want to know, okay, if 0-2 teams have 9% of teams have made the playoffs starting 0-2, what are your chances go down to 0-3, which is 1 in 100 basically.
It's a 1% chance.
I'm going to give you a list, Mo. Let's pile on this for a minute because I've been thinking about one of the stories of the week is the 0-2 teams. Let me tell you who's on it. The New England Patriots, the Minnesota Vikings, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Denver Broncos, the Cincinnati Bengals, all 0-2. Now, who saw that? These are teams that need to win. These aren't bad teams. Yes, I'll give you the Cardinals. I'll give you the Bears. I'll give you the Texans. I'll give you the Texans. I'll give you the Panthers. That's fine. We're talking about playoff teams.
And we can't keep bringing up with the Bengals because they went 0-2 last year. That was last year.
Yeah,
this is a whole different year. And your quarterback has a quarterback calf.
Yeah, they got a quarterback out there limping around.
Offensive line is shaky.
And that's another thing. We're investing all this into these normal size, human size athletic quarterbacks. The downside to that is when they get dinged up, they're not Big Ben. They can't go out there and fight through these games. Burrow looks terrible on a bad wheel.
6'6", 250.
He can't fight through the push, and a lot of these guys can't. It's not just Burrow, but that's why I keep saying about Bryce Young and Mayfield and all these guys. There's something to being able to fight through these games, even back in the day. But anyway, the 0-2 story is a big storyline. Anyway.
There's something with Chase going on, and Higgins didn't get paid. He wants to get paid, and they know that he knows that they're waiting to pay Chase and all that.
But it's gonna be fun.
A position that was was like a strength. Hasn't looked so good so far, but it's we can't keep going on last year because they did it last year 0-2. That whatever happened last year is last year. There's a whole new season, and the Bengals, their quarterback's hurt. It's tough. It's
2 divisional games, 2 divisional,
and they lost 2. They're already down to 0-2 in the division. You don't want to lose games in the division. If you lose games in the division, it's a wrap.
Yeah, so I put them on my most interested team. I like that Bengals, Rams. That's not my pick for the week, but that's one that game means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeff, what is your game of the week?
So I changed it up a little bit because I assume, Cruz, you're going to talk about Washington. I'm most interested in that game to see how it goes. But I'm
not. So if you want to talk about that game,
okay, let's do it. We'll talk about that a little bit. I'll go with because I was going to switch it to the Thursday night game because that never gets any love from us because it falls in between our shows. But real quick, Lions Packers this coming Thursday night is huge for all the reasons coming off last year, coming off. That's probably who's going to win the division. One of those two teams, all that stuff. Thursday night game this week. It's going to look terrible because teams cannot play on Thursday night. They're not ready, but it's an important game. But yeah, let's talk about, I think I'm most interested in Bills Commanders. I want to see, we talked about it already a bunch, how good are the Commanders? I believe they're really good. I talked about it with Ken earlier this week. I believe they're a really good team that knows what they're doing, has a plan, understands the situation. And the Bills are a team that are are we great or not? Because what happens there's and I've said it in the preseason, me and Stuart talked about it. Is Josh Allen ready to like tone it down a little bit, just go out there, get the wins, win by 7 points, or is he going to constantly keep pushing this and pushing this and pushing it? He's playing right into D coordinator's hands. Like they know what's coming. Like they're not as scared of him as people think. Now, if you give me 1 game playoff, that's different Josh Allen, but you got to get there. We saw what happened last year against the Bengals when they had a plan against him. He doesn't seem to be able to adapt to the dink and dunk offense that sometimes that's just all you need to win a game. Dink and
Brock
dunk.
Purdy. The Brock Purdy way.
Brock Purdy is having a better season to this day than Allen is because of all these reasons. So then I want to see how good the Commanders are, and I want to see how like now they're 2-0. They're on the watch list, whether people are deciding whether they're a fraud or not. Like everybody's watching, everybody's paying attention. That's when the pressure starts building. You can't sneak in, and they got a good team, but not a great team. But they got a name that now, if they beat the Bills, wow, now we're looking at the Commanders. If they lose, see, we told you. And then the Bills are at 2-1. All that matters to them is build and win. So this is it's a really huge game, and I think the Commanders are smart enough on defense to get into Allen's head, because I think we've proved that we can do that. I think we can disrupt Allen. I think teams can cause him some troubles and get him to, he's not Mahomes. He doesn't seem to adapt on the fly. Whether that's a combination of coaching and quarterback, but we're just calling it one thing. And then can they play within themselves? Robinson looks good. A lot of the other skill positions for Washington look good. I mean, they've done well drafting, and we'll see if it pays off in this game. If they go to 3-0, then if you can get to 3-0 in the NFL, then you can just hold on and hope for a wild card spot. So that's an interesting one at 1:00 on Sunday.
So it's funny you guys bring up Brock Purdy.
Hold on, Rob, real quick. Can I get my game to watch real quick?
Let me just say this real quick.
Go ahead.
They brought up Brock Purdy, the dink and dunk, the Brock Purdy way. On Thursday night, he had 310 passing yards.
He's not dink and dunk at all.
210 of them were yards after the catch.
Yeah,
that's whoa.
And also, that was also an indication on the Giants' terrible tackling and just being soft too. Because how many times you saw
that's not
saw Samuel just like
that's San Francisco's offense, just like it's Miami's offense. Like it's about getting players moving forward and getting them the ball and not getting your quarterback hit in the face. Like it's not
tackling
100% fair to Brock Purdy.
They were awful tackling. That was bad. Like how many 3rd and 18s they converted like at least 3 or 4 3rd and 15s off just like McCaffrey and Samuels and Kittle just literally carrying people 10 yards.
I'm already on edge today.
I'm just trying to push you over. So Mo, go ahead and give us your game of the week. The one.
All I want to say is before I give my game to watch. All I want to say is there's no way you wake up tomorrow and tell me that Sundays are better than Saturdays with the matchups we got tomorrow.
Oh, no, it's a terrible. I said it earlier this week, Mo.
Tomorrow sucks in the NFL, if we're being honest. Like, outside of rooting for your team, like, if I'm Chris, because my Giants played, I might take a nap tomorrow. Like, if my team wasn't playing, we played on Thursday night, I don't mind taking a nap. Because there's really not a lot of games worth watching outside of rooting for your team. Tomorrow,
a fantasy team to commish, so we have to wake up really early and make sure we get this done.
The matchups suck, but I will say my game to watch, and I'm gonna be honest, the 12:00 game, I'm watching the Dolphins. I'm sticking to my guns. I've said they're the best team. They've been the most exciting team to watch. They're playing the Broncos. The Broncos defense sucks. So I expect Tua and Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle's expected not to play. So I expect Tyreek Hill to probably go over 150 easily and 2 touchdowns. I expect Raheem Mostert to have over 100 yards. And at this point, when Tua's healthy, the Dolphins are, if not the most, one of the 3 most exciting teams to watch, because I'm not a defensive guy like that. I love offense. I love points. I love explosive plays. And that's what the Dolphins give you. And so at 12:00, like, obviously we play. So at 4:30 or whatever. So of course that's going to be the game I watch or whatever. But yeah, the Dolphins are getting all my screen time I say 12:00. I'm on Central Time. The 1:00 slate, the Dolphins get all my screen time until the game gets so out of hand. Then I'm going to just start looking at ESPN app and see what the closest game is that's worth turning on just because it's a close game. But I'm sorry, you just can't wake up tomorrow and tell me that the gift that you get today is better than what you're getting tomorrow.
I'm trying not to sidetrack it.
Thanks. Tomorrow's
Football's
I'm just saying.
Football's a volume sport. You have to watch more than one game at a time. If you watch a standalone game, it's a little different. Outside of the betting,
Not
world.
just that. The rebuttal I would have to that, Mo, is one, college gets to pick their own matchups and when they play. Number two, you look at all things equal, week 3 versus week 3. Let's look at some of the week 3 matchups last week. Ohio State versus Western Kentucky, Michigan versus Bowling Green, Florida State versus Boston College, which should not have been a good game.
But that
Texas
game was better than
Wyoming.
any NFL game this year played to date. That game was better than any NFL game played to date.
But it wasn't supposed to be.
Right?
We might have
But
some
I'm just
surprises.
saying, you wake up on
What I'm saying
Saturday
is-
and get those.
But
It's
what I'm
not
saying is, all things equal, week 3 versus week 3, in between a league that the commissioner they get their schedules. Hey, this is what we're playing, and a league that a sport that they get to pick their own conference or their own schedule. Last week's week 3 games of college football were straight basura. Let's just be honest.
That's fair. It was really bad.
It was, but my thing is the games turned out to be great because the parity that you have in college football, you get the Florida State and Boston College, where Boston College should have had no chance. You wake up not expecting it, and then boom, that's better than any game played in the
One
NFL.
too, Boston College.
Like if you watch that game, like I watched that game. If you watch that, and then you've watched NFL for the first 2 weeks, and you're going into week 3, Florida State versus Boston College was better than any NFL game played so far.
Yes,
What was the Wake Forest game with the kicker? Was it Wake Forest with the kicker had the 61-yard? That was a good game.
That was Missouri. and
Missouri. Yeah. We're on
Missouri,
they have similar
Kansas State.
uniforms.
Like,
Yeah, that was a
That's
good game
why I
too.
say- But the thing about it is, yes, college gets to pick their schedules. So yes, through 3 weeks, we know how the top heavy teams pick their schedules through 3 weeks. It finally kicks off where week 4 is absolutely amazing because now it's crunch time, conference play, all this other stuff. This is where all the big matchups are. But on top of that, they don't get to pick their schedule. And we just look at the fact a lot of teams suck right now. Like, so like some of the matchups should be good.
No,
They should
because
be.
September's
Certain teams just
preseason.
aren't that good that we thought. Like that certain teams are just not as good. Like if I'm not watching the Dolphins, I watch the Bills and Commanders. Why? Because that's the best game as far as matchup wise. That is the best game to me, matchup wise, expectation, a 2-0, 1-1 team, a team we're trying to find out how good they are, and a team that we're trying to see, are you as good as you sell us before every season for the past 3 years? To me, that's like, okay, that's worth watching. I get to watch an undefeated team and a team that I expect to see in the playoffs. Outside of that, these matchups are bad. The injuries are ruining it too, and it's nobody's fault. You can't help injuries. But it's like you look at this and you're like, God, there's a lot more bad teams in the NFL than we thought would be coming into week 3. We didn't think there were going to be that many bad teams. There's a bunch of teams with talent. We thought the Texans, the Panthers, and the Cardinals. Outside of that, we're like everybody else got competent rosters where these games could be good week in and week out. And now you're looking and you're like, God, tomorrow sucks. Like if your team's not playing, you can take a nap. Like I could easily fall asleep during these 1 o'clock games and wake up and not regret it.
that doesn't that suck though? Like, all right, obviously my Giants. We're right now we are not a good football team, right?
Just suck.
We suck, right? And it's just crazy because we're being out physical, and that's something that didn't really happen last season. And it's just crazy how, like, you know, kind of a similar roster, and you added pieces, and yet you look soft. And then, like, the season's, quite frankly, it's probably over, and I owe Mo $100 by the end of the season. So, like, you know, it's just I didn't think we'd be out physical. I knew maybe we're not better than Dallas and better than the Eagles, but I'm like, we're gonna come every way. We're gonna bring our you know, we're gonna bring it every week. It's gonna be tough, and it's like, oh wow, we're softer than we were last year, and it's like, how does that happen? It's just disappointing that 3 weeks in, I'm like, all right, my team, the season's over, and I'm like, all right, let's go Knicks. Like the most competent team in New York, besides the Liberty, you know, is maybe the New York Knicks, and just 2 years ago, we would have laughed at that, right? We would have laughed at saying the most competent team in New York. That the Yankees look like a mess. The Mets are a disaster. You know, the Jets lost their quarterback. The Giants are trash. You know, and it's just like, wait, and the Brooklyn Nets, they lost all 3 of their big 3 that they got last year, 2 years ago, and now it's like, are the Knicks the most competent team in New York? It's just like, all right,
That's crazy.
It's crazy to think that, and it's like, man, it sucks when you still got 50. Like, there's a lot of football left, but it's like, oh, that actually might be a bad thing because it's like I'm going to watch 15 more weeks of really bad football, possibly.
That on the shirt.
Got to trademark that.
Caleb Williams
You need
sweepstake. I didn't think that. I wasn't going to get ready to scout Caleb Williams this year, but we might have to.
You're not scouting him. Come on now. We're not.
Anyway,
John's been
Oh.
just real quick
Anything's
before we
possible.
move on too far. 2023 completed air yards per attempt. Josh Allen 2.9, Brock Purdy 4.3. So just so we can do that, if we're
Fair.
gonna do it, it's fair.
Those are long
Like,
screen
fair.
pass. Maybe it's
I mean, the
counting
stats are out there.
the height of the ball.
We
The height
look
of
at
the ball
Brock
in the air.
Purdy. No. He
But
looks
Brock
like
Purdy, that's a lot of yards side to side.
He's moving. He does drop back a lot, so maybe that's why.
Ego does be like 10 yards to the side of Brock Purdy.
it's
yeah.
not
That
GPS.
was a hell of a screen
assholes.
pass, though. He is an elite screen pass.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, so
Go ahead.
real quick, I'm gonna give my game to watch. We talked about it a little bit already. Philly versus Tampa. One, because Philly has not looked great. They don't look like they just came off a Super Bowl run. Tampa Bay's looking better than expected. Both teams 2-0. Here's what caught my eye: is that the opposing sides of the ball for each of the teams are nearly identical. Philly's offense is 5th in the league. Tampa's defense is 8th. Tampa's offense is 16th in the league. Philly's defense is also 16th. So I think matchup-wise, on paper, it looks like a really good game. And as of right now, statistically speaking, in major statistical categories, Baker Mayfield is outplaying Jalen Hurts. Take that with a grain of salt. Do with it as you may. Jeff may not do anything with it.
No, because there's nothing to do because they're just running it down your throat all day. Like that's what Philly does. They're just running.
They're
running for like 200 yards a game. Like they're just playing old style football. And I just want to say for what you said earlier, Philly looks exactly like a team that just lost a Super Bowl.
100%. Especially
They
one
literally, if they won, we'd be surprised that they're 2-0 and don't look great. They literally look like a team that lost the Super Bowl because when teams lose the Super Bowl, they do not come back and look the same. A la Bengals last year. Start 0-2. Philly's reluctant to be 2-0, but they look like a team that went on a Super Bowl run and lost the Super Bowl.
You know what they look like? They look like a team.
I'm not surprised how they look. They lost. So usually the losers won't start off hot.
I totally agree. They look like exactly like a team who lost the Super Bowl and have whined about it ever since, like they got robbed. That's exactly what they look like. I'm 100% with Mo on this one. This is exactly what they look like as a Super Bowl team that it kind of thinks they won the Super Bowl. They're tricking themselves into thinking they won the Super Bowl. We saw the Bengals do this. Like the Bengals still think they won a Super Bowl, like in their brain. Like they just, it's hard for teams to deal with the losses unless they get thumped.
The 49ers do it when they lost to the Chiefs. Like usually the loser doesn't start off hot. So for Philly not to start off hot and be 2-0, like they're sitting in a good spot because
they're actually doing great.
Teams that go to the Super Bowl and lose, and we know they return a good team next year. Usually they figure it out when it's time to figure it out. So I think Philly sitting at 2-0 is.
But Rob's right. There's something to be said about, like I said it earlier in the show, like Hurts is on the watch list. Like I'm not saying he's not a starting quarterback and a very good quarterback, but like he's not going to be what he was last year. Quarterbacks just don't do that for, decades. Like people figure you out. They watch so much tape. They make it more difficult on you. He'll adjust. He'll be fine. He's going to be their starter for a while. But I think it's worth noting that like he's not going to be able to play out of his mind. And so which is going to make the games
an anomaly this season.
Yeah, and sometimes that happens. I don't think, but you don't know until you see it. It's again, just in general, the public likes Hurts so much, and I do too. Just likes him so much.
The story
this
too.
is one
I think that's another thing.
Exactly. This is one of those players that we automatically are like, oh no, he had a really good season. This will last forever. But with Josh Allen, even with Mahomes, the first couple seasons, we're always like, let's see if we can repeat. Like Tua is on the watch list every week. Like constantly, Tua is on like any minute now, and nobody says that about Hurts. Like it's just stamped in stone that he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. We can't pay any attention to what he does. We don't have to worry about it. It's going to be great. We're like, well, you still got to watch these guys. They're still young quarterbacks. Like you don't know, So I'm just saying,
But they're going with their bread and butter. The Eagles, like they're just gonna run it down your throat.
Which is fine.
Shut up, Mo. They're the second in the league in rushing, and like they're not passing well, but they're just going with their strength right now. So
end of the day,
they're just gonna keep going with it till the rest of the season. They got a bunch of running
the Eagles
backs
just have to win. They don't have to do
all you got to do is win. This is the NFL, college football, strength of schedule and strength of win and all that. You could be 13-4, and as long as ain't nobody else 13-4, you number one in your conference.
Well,
it don't
with the
matter.
Cowboys right behind them.
Late
they
in the
gotta
season,
keep winning these games.
Late in the season, that pass rush is going to start the teams are going to become wore down, and that deep.
Yeah, they're
Eagles
going
pass
to
rush is gonna
way
start.
The interior
They're
with
going to start.
Stockton
They're going to start
and, what's his
murdering
name,
offensive
Davis?
lines.
Yeah.
Their trenches, period. Their trenches, their offensive line, and their D line. That's why
Yep.
Philly's going to be okay. Because, like you said, they're
Philly's
so
fine.
elite on both sides. When everybody else is worn down, banged up, missing,
They're going to be
there.
wicked. The Dolphins will be worse,
They
like
don't
in
get
December,
hurt.
but their schedules. The Dolphins' schedule is great because they don't have to travel much late. So that's why I think they can hold on to this. But the Eagles are going to be murdering people in December.
Their trenches don't get hurt too. They don't have like an injury.
They got so much depth. Yeah. Do you guys read anything into like the whole AJ Brown and
Yes.
Hurts things? Do you think that's
Yes.
Do you think
That's
that's
a real thing.
that's something we should be looking at because they're not throwing the ball like that, and that's probably why AJ Brown's frustrated because they do got obviously they got a lot of weapons.
Players
in the perimeter,
need
but
to have.
they're rushing the. They don't need to pass the ball like that right now. So
winning isn't everything to everybody. Yeah, I will say yes because winning isn't everything to everybody. I want to
especially with receivers too.
I want to win, but at the end of the day, winning doesn't pay the bill. Stats do. And so at the end of the day, when I come back to the negotiating table and we're just running the ball and I want it's next man up. Obviously, AJ Brown got an extension, but I think he's going to be a contract talks this summer. I think he got one more year, but he's looking for an extension. If you tell me I had 83 catches and 900 yards, you're not paying me these $28 to $30 million that all these other receivers around me, my counterparts, are getting. So yes, I do see his frustration because winning doesn't pay the bills. Production does. We could be 2-0 all we want. I'm supposed to be the number one wide receiver, and I'm sitting here watching the other wide receiver when we do throw the ball. You're not feeding me, you're feeding him.
And this is year one of his contract.
And this is why
year one of his new contract. He signed a 4-year, $100 million.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the first year. So he probably has certain incentives that he wants to hit, and right now he
just wants to play. These guys just play. They want. It's not always just. I mean, it's always selfish, but it's not. Sometimes it's just like they just want to play. Like Brown,
I'm not
like, I can't believe I
get
a block again. This is why New England didn't do this with receivers for all those decades, and it worked because they never had to deal with this. It's a real thing. I think the
Bengals are going to have that issue.
But Moss had already been through that with Oakland, and he'd already done that bullshit. Everybody forgets about that too. Like Moss was a terrible teammate for like 3 years, and then was like, okay, now I get it. Now I'm a little older. Now it's time to go. And
I'm a little older. I'm heading out, so I want to win now. Like it changes when I'm on my way out.
It's 100% a big story. You look at how much
the other one.
Look at how much more fun Baltimore's having now that their receivers are, getting the ball a little bit more. They're sprinkling, it's a more modern offense. They're having more fun. But by December, Baltimore's going to be awesome. I think. I really think that this offense is going to be so much better. They're going to be having so much more fun. But I think the Eagles, I do believe it's a real thing, and it'll come around. It'll be fine. But AJ Brown ain't staying there for 4 years of this. I'm telling you that right now.
I don't think so. Especially with the Devontae there, they got to pay Devontae too. So
I like that. I like that conversation. That's a great job, Mo.
So Jeff, we highlight one rivalry of the week. There's really only one this week. It's in your division, Jets Patriots. Going into the season, not a lot of people let me speak for myself. I didn't think was going to be much of a game. Heading into week 3, I assume this was going to be Aaron Rodgers versus Mac Jones. It's now turned into Zach Wilson versus Mac Jones. So I'm going to let you kind of give your take since you're inside the division. What do you think of this matchup?
And you guys know this. You're all NFC East fans. You love watching the other teams beat up on each other. The good news is one of these teams gets to lose and pretty much be done for the season. Like that's just the truth of it. Even if it's 1-2 or 0 and whatever it's going to be, like you're pretty much done. You're cooked. The other team loves it because they hate each other. What I want it to be is like a mud fight. Like I want it to be bad. I don't want either team to look good. I want them to beat up on each other. You know what I mean? Like and then
6.
Yeah. It's like you guys get. I can't stand either one of these teams. I can't stand the look of the jersey. I can't stand to see their faces. Like despise them. But I keep bringing this up as another storyline to look at. It is fair to say that Belichick is just a great coach without Brady, and not a genius, not a magician. He's just a really, 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 really good coach with Brady not there. I don't know. Like for some reason, we're not allowed to talk about that, but it's real. Like he didn't just move on from Brady. Like they don't look good because he doesn't like they beat Miami with Brady. Like that game, they beat Miami with Brady and they didn't. So like how many times did that happen in his career? You know what I mean? Like how many Super Bowls does Belichick have if he just has Roethlisberger instead of Brady? 2, probably 2 and a couple losses at best. Like it's worth to have the conversation. This is another chink in the armor. Like he's going against Zach Wilson. Belichick ought to put him in the ground this week. Like he's coached against quarterbacks. Wilson doesn't deserve to wear the pajamas of some of the quarterbacks that Belichick's outsmarted. So if he can't do it, then what do we got in New England?
Yeah, that's true.
I really just took that whole time to take shots at both teams.
That's fine.
was so much
Time is
fun.
coming
Thank
to an
you.
end for Mr.
Thank you.
Belichick. It is slowly.
Yeah. And
coming
again,
to an
I want
end.
everybody to hear me. He's just a great coach without Brady.
He's
Just
aight.
a great coach.
He's
There's-
aight.
Yeah, he's not this all-time GOAT, like you said, magician that we have to like bow down to, like
Right.
he's Russell Crowe in Gladiator or something every time he comes to our
Exactly.
presence.
Because
Like,
12 was hiding all the other weaknesses, the bad drafting of
He
wide
covered-
receivers
he
and
co-
weapons and all
we
that.
knew the thing is we knew that, but at the end of the day, when both of them are winning,
But
who
we weren't
gets
allowed to say it. We weren't allowed
right
to say it.
because who gets the praise when you win? The head coach and the quarterback. Who gets the
Yep.
blame? When you're winning so much, when it's
He wanted to
down,
let
like
go of Brady before they won the other 2 Super Bowls, the last 2. He wanted Jimmy G. If it was up to him, and Robert Kraft,
I
didn't
wish
let
he
him,
would have got Jimmy G.
he would have let go of Brady after the 4th Super Bowl, at the Seahawks Super Bowl, and that
True.
would have been it. And
And
he
he
would have
would've
had Jimmy
never won
G,
another
and then he probably ain't even the head coach right now, to be honest. If he gets his way, to be honest, because
he would force himself into retirement. by
and
making-
Kraft was like, "No, we're not doing that." And then they waited till Brady year 20 for Brady to be like, "All right, Brady, he wants out. Let's." And then
So
we
is
can do it
that the
now.
genius of Robert Kraft though? Like, does that turn out to be the genius of Robert Kraft? Where like, okay, I'm the owner, and listen, we are nothing without Tom Brady. As great as you think you are, Bill, we're not letting him go because we're nothing without Tom Brady. Like, is
No,
that
I think
Robert Kraft acknowledging that in a sense?
In a sense,
Belichick and
a little
Brady. Belichick and Brady were grown-ups and knew what they had and didn't screw it up because of egos. Like that's all it was. And credit to both of them for being like, no, we can each win 1 without the other, but we can win 3 more with each other. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think they came to an agreement of like, and that was a smart thing to do because we've seen so many teams get ruined over decades where a quarterback
Wait,
and
so you think
coach
there was
can
an
do that.
agreement on that? Like, all right, we should part ways.
Yes,
I think
1,000%.
I think Brady was tired of Belichick. I think Belichick wanted Brady out like I said, when he had Garoppolo.
Me
and all
too. I
that.
think, but I think they both were like, they were in the legendary mode by the time they got to this point.
When he wanted Jimmy G, Tom Brady simply could have asked for a trade, but he didn't.
Yeah.
Because
But
he's like,
Brady knew though, if he goes to a normal coaching team, then also his deficiencies, are exaggerated. And so then he's going to have to fight to maybe like he saw what Aaron Rodgers was doing simultaneously at the exact same time. He saw a much better quarterback not winning. So why would Brady be like, I want to go somewhere else? And he's watching Rodgers, fail at year after year after year with much more skill.
Mhm.
Brady would have been insane to leave.
Yeah, and he's not getting traded to Miami too. Like he probably wanted to go to Miami, and they're not trading him.
He couldn't have won in Miami. He couldn't have won in Miami.
He wanted Miami though. That's what
He couldn't
that
have,
was his
though.
team.
But
He
I'm
wanted.
saying though, like he
Won.
came to his senses.
Oh, he
couldn't
would
have
have won.
He couldn't have
okay.
won in Miami. No, he did the right thing, and those guys are legends, and now they can do whatever they want with all their money. And
But the fact
Probably
that
so.
Brady in year 1 with Tampa won the chip, and Belichick is struggling.
but he
he-
couldn't win it with. My
he
point
did
is, year
go
2
to-
they sucked.
yeah, he went to a team that we saw their roster like they were the Jets. They were a quarterback away, and they weren't in the NFC wasn't stacked the way the AFC. Like if
And if
the Jets were in, if the AFC and Aaron Rodgers joined the Jets and the AFC looked the way the NFC looked the year Brady joined, the Jets would be hands down like favorites to win or at least get to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. We just didn't. We counted the Jets out still a little bit that they're not going to be these world beaters because the AFC was supposed to be stacked, loaded. Eight of the top 10 quarterbacks are in the AFC. So like we're like, oh, it's not as easy as a road. It's not. Oh,
and it
Aaron
was
Rodgers.
all because Aaron Rodgers, like stubbed his toe against they weren't even better than the Packers that year. Aaron Rodgers just completely flubbed that game and gave Tampa Bay a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
my goodness. Anyway, gentlemen,
At
I'm going
home,
to let
yeah,
you
yeah.
do
At the crib.
NFC East corner for a little bit. I got to run. This has been a blast. I love the rankings. I want to keep doing this as often as I can. I'll be gone for a few weeks, doing some shenanigans, but it's been real. Great conversations. Good to see you all.
All right, Jeff.
Keep it going. Go Bucks, and have a great NFL weekend, everybody.
You too, Jess. Thanks for coming on. All right. So we got to wrap this. I'm starting to think Jeff is a problem why these shows go on for so long. So whenever he gets, we all just get to
He's
talk.
not
So
retired. He's not retired.
Get
he's
him
definitely
going.
not.
Yeah, no, not at
Retired
all.
to Jace.
So Mo, your favorite time of the week?
All right.
Who is your lock?
Who's my lock?
All right. So I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna go the easy route that Walker took and said, my lock of the week is a 2-touchdown favorite Cowboys. Come on. Like, come on, dog. Like, you shouldn't even be allowed to pick them. That's like, that's rigging your record.
Real quick, before you keep going. NFL Network does their survivor picks. I was watching Good Morning Football, and what they do is you pick one team to win per week, and once you pick that team, you can no longer do it. You can't pick that team for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's
but
just
picking the Cowboys for 2-touchdown favorite as like, hey, let me just put a guaranteed W. Let me get back rolling, but that's fine. Hey, you know what? You can have that. You can pick them all you want. There are some like lopsided locks, essentially, like some of these spreads. So it's kind of like I say all that, and then I'm gonna pick a team, but I'm gonna take the Seahawks. They're -5.5. So I'm gonna take the Seahawks as my lock of the week. They're gonna beat the Panthers. No Bryce Young, but they're still only 5.5 point favorites of all these spreads. That's one of the closer ones. So I'm gonna take the Seahawks just to not take a double-digit point spread and be like, yeah, let me guarantee you my dub for the week.
Prez, who's your lock?
My lock of the week is going to be the Dolphins over the Broncos.
I was gonna go there. I'm
gonna go. That's my lock of the week.
God, they're even dang near a touchdown favorite.
Yeah, they're 6.5. They may win by double. They may win by 2-3 touchdowns.
So I had the same thought process as you, Mo. I wasn't gonna pick the Cowboys over the Cardinals. And then I ended up doing the same pick as you as well. Seattle. I'm taking Seattle over Carolina with no Bryce Young.
Yeah, got to find one of the closer point spreads. Let's not go to the double digits here for locks. Like, let's be a little.
Yeah, if it's within like a touchdown, I think that's fair. I think that should be the rules.
Because there's 6.5, 7, 8, like just the 13.5, 14, 12.5. Come on, man.
Yeah, like saying the Chiefs is a lock versus the Bears is like, all right, you don't get the credit for that. I'm sorry.
Right. I'm gonna give my upset real quick. I'm looking at all these. There's not a lot of upsets I really believe in that I really want to take.
You're gonna take one.
I might take yours.
You are.
And it's not even much of an upset. I'm taking Pittsburgh over the Raiders.
You took mine.
I knew I have another one.
I knew that's where you was going. I knew exactly where you was going. That's why he said, let me pick first. Nobody get to take his upset pick of the week. But
and take the same one.
Well, no, because we got to separate records at this point. Me and Rob can't pick the same lock. And at the end of the day, the end result is to try and have the best record. But
that's for like so far, once we're like week 10, 11 past that.
Yeah, after
once we realize who these teams really are, that's when we can start picking different games.
Well, I'm a rock out. I'm rocking out. I knew Rob was going to take it, but I'm still rocking out. The Steelers are beating the Raiders. First off, one of my closest homeboys is a Raiders fan, so I hate the Raiders. And Pittsburgh is like the only reason. This is probably a pick'em game on a neutral site. The only reason that the Raiders are favorites is because it's at home. I don't think they have the home field advantage of like that we're so used to for the Raiders as opposed because they're not in Oakland anymore. It's a little bit different. I think you get a lot of mixed crowd of just. And Pittsburgh fans travel well, and you're telling Pittsburgh fans they get to travel to Vegas in September. I expect to see a lot of Steelers fans in there, a lot of black and yellow. I'm with Rob. I'm going with the Steelers. They win this game outright.
Prezi, who's your upset?
Commanders over the Bills.
I wanted to go there, but I said I think I don't have a blemish on my record right now, so I was like, I don't want to.
I'm taking chances. I've been taking chances with my picks, but this one feels good. This one it feels good in the gut and all that. but I'm going with that. I'm going with
I wanted to, but I did not
Commanders
want to
over the
be
Bills.
upset at an NFC East team for praising them.
My
and then they-
season's over, so I don't care anymore. My team season's over, so whatever. I don't really care. But yeah, Commanders over the Bills.
I wanted to go with that game, obviously, but just the last two teams we played Arizona, garbage, and we struggled. Denver, I don't think they're a terrible team. They have a really good defense. Was down by 18 at one point. Came back and won. Almost lost because of a Hail Mary, or could have lost. I just this week is going to tell me what this team is made of.
I'll say the Commanders' defense can make Josh Allen have a bad game again, though.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the Commanders type of defense to make him look the way he did against the Jets. Now I don't know about 4 turnovers, but they can make him look bad. They got that kind of pass rush, and Bill's offensive line is still something to like cause for concern a little bit. So that's
Here's the thing that worries me is right now there's a hurricane going up the East Coast.
Yeah, they might not even play.
Country.
They may not play. They said it's supposed to hit at like 2:00 that day.
Pouring right now in New York, and so the whole Northeast is. But they'll probably play. But it's going to be an ugly game. That's why I'm thinking
that goes to the Commanders side to me.
That, and I think that favors the home team a little bit, that. And like I said, Josh has had, shown, especially week 1 in the perfect weather, he had 4 turnovers and all that. So I could see, the Commanders
winning
an ugly
game.
to run the ball a little bit.
I could see them winning an ugly game.
Squeaking away like a low scoring game. I could see them, squeaking away and getting the win. So that's why I feel like,
if it comes down to run game, I trust our run game a hell of a lot more than
they don't have a run game.
Exactly. So that being said, right before we get off here, we're gonna pay some bills with our great sponsor, SeatGeek. If you're trying to go to a game this weekend, if it's not a monsoon, if you're having great weather, go get yourself out to an NFL game. Not just NFL games, got soccer games, basketball is starting. We're the end of September. Basketball's gonna start heating up. Get yourself to a concert, comedy show, anything of the sort. Use promo code Off the Ball Network, all caps. Get $20 off your first purchase. Again, SeatGeek. Mo, go ahead and tell the people where they can find you and what projects you have coming up.
Yeah, you can follow me at Mo_Cheese15. Be on the lookout for Field Stormers. We're going to recap what a wonderful Saturday we're about to have starting now. Like it starts now. So we're going to recap that. Check out my latest Up in Flames. I had Jordan Foote on. He covers the Kansas City Chiefs. Been my guy for a few years. So definitely check out that most recent episode. We'll have one drop next week as well. Depending on what Saturday and Sunday looks like, kind of depends on the topics that we'll have on that one. So I don't know what it's going to be and who's going to be on it yet. But yeah, and as always, I love being on CU Sunday. This is therapy for me. I wake up on Saturday knowing, hey, talk football, and hey, it's perfect time. Talk football, go watch football. So I always love doing CU Sunday.
Prez.
Follow me Off the Ball Pod. You can Get a Bucket season 2 just started. Me and Kev, just dropped the first episode talking about the Big East, and our next episode we're going to be talking about the Big Ten and all that, covering all that. So check that out. Get a Bucket podcast, stream it on all podcast platforms, and Off the Ball podcast, same thing. So and make sure you check out everything at Off the Ball Network, OTB_network on Twitter, offtheballnetwork.com, all the great sponsors and all that. So make sure you check that out. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're almost at 400, so let's get there.
Y'all already know you can find me FNC Pod on Twitter, Football and Show Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Mo, Chris, thanks for coming on. Jeff, Jelani, thanks for coming on. Thank you to Stu for commenting. He seems to be where I was Baker's rookie year in believing in him. I have since left that bandwagon, but we'll see. For Mo, for Chris, I'm Rob. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you Sunday.